The National Industrial Court has issued an interim order restraining the Nigeria Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress from embarking on any form of industrial action or protest in the Federal Capital Territory. Justice Emmanuel Sibilim granted the order on Monday following an ex parte application filed by the Minister of the FCT, Nyesom Wike, and the FCT Administration. The ruling effectively halts a mass protest that was scheduled to commence on Tuesday, February 3. The court also directed security agencies to ensure there is no breakdown of law and order within the nation's capital. The court has now adjourned the matter to February 10 for the hearing of the motion on notice. I'm joined now by legal practitioner Osigwe Momoh to help simplify the FCT labor situation and the latest court ruling. Thank you for obliging us tonight. The court restraint on the planned workers' protest in FCT. Isn't this tantamount to an infringement on the right of freedom of assembly and expression?
Absolutely, I agree with that. Whereas I can understand why the courts may be skeptic when it comes to the strike going on and pausing the matter, making sure that all parties come to court before they embark on the strike. But when it comes to protest, that is a constitutional right, and an industrial court does not have the privilege to stop any Nigerian from exercising his constitutional rights. It has been said severally in Buhari in ANPC, when it was in ANPC, that was when they had the issue, and they went to court to ask for then the very, very notorious police permits to conduct a protest. And the court was very clear, and it says, no, you don't need any permit, you don't need anything. Any Nigerian can protest. The right to protest is absolute. It's a freedom of assembly, like you said, and expression is constitutional. It is fundamental. It's different from just, every other right as you can imagine. And as such, no court can stop it. I don't think that's the intent. I would think that what the court is saying, because I have not seen the whole court process, this is all that's flying in the media. I would think what the court is saying basically is that the parties should not constitute any, any crime, which is obvious. If you're protesting, doesn't mean you should riot. Riots and protests are two different things. It also doesn't mean you should, block the road and access ways and, embark on the strike.
Is that exactly what the court is saying? Because even the gentleman that spoke and the interpretation that's all over the media is that the court has said NLC and TUC, even the secretary and the chairman, should hold off going on any protest. The interpretation would seem confusing.
Absolutely. I mean, it's shocking. I'm thinking the court would not want to stretch to that extent because this is constitutional, like we've said. The court will not want to get to the extent where it would tell Nigerians, don't protest. The court doesn't have that prerogative to so do. The right to protest is fundamental. It's such that you cannot just whimsically take out for whatsoever reason. So while you can govern how protest should work, then the protest in itself cannot be impeached. And even if it's going to be impeached, it shouldn't be the industrial courts because this is a constitutional matter. The industrial court can deal with domestic disputes as much as we can, but when it comes to this very, very common rights that every Nigerian has to enjoy, which is your right to assembly and express yourself, I dare say that the industrial court will be doing too much if it goes ahead to say, no, you cannot protest in this country. I think that would be a very, very, it will be shocking. I've not read the whole judgment or ruling as a matter of fact, but I'm pretty sure that if we check it, it will not be in that line. The court would say you can not strike or not protest to be a little bit too far.
Okay, let's talk about the fact that this is not the first time that the government is going to court to stop people from exercising their freedom of expression and the right to protest. But do you see the NLC and the TUC obliging the courts, not obeying the court's ruling today? If they don't, what are the implications?
Well, I think that, before we look at it from a legal standpoint, this matter, in fairness, is not entirely legal. It's more political. There have been people that could not stand and still can't stand the ministers, they can't stand the minister for one reason or another. And it doesn't make it easy for himself. The minister is somehow a combative person, and he has made so much enemies left, right, and center. And so, but then again, I want us to look at it from a broader perspective, and if you look at it from a broader perspective, you may want to agree that Wike was already marked for crisis as soon as he became minister. Some people couldn't stand the fact that he's a Southern Christian being a minister. And I say this without fairness because, many people thought the Muslim ticket or Wike was President Bola Tinubu's.
That is, I know you're looking at it from a political aspect, but that was not my question. My question is, the court has ruled. The NLC and the TUC, they must be in receipt of that ruling. Will they go ahead with the protest, or will they not? From what you have seen?
Go ahead with the protest. I don't see them stopping the protest, as a matter of fact. I mean, is their right to assembly? I think they should. If I'm the advisor, I would say, hey, let's look at it critically. The court will not tell you not to protest. It will only tell you, do not break the laws and do not strike. And then again, if you are going to tell your workers to leave work to protest, then there's a crisis, because that means you are enforcing the strike. So there's a very delicate divide that we have to look into. If you're going to tell people don't work, come to the street, then you are now, flouting the court order. The court can say don't strike. That's well within the court's right, because an industrial court. But to say don't protest, I think that court is exceeding the ambit as a matter of.
It took me a minute to process something you said earlier about politics being at the heart of this. And I'm curious as to someone practicing in this country. You've seen the courts dabble into political issues time and time again. Why do you think this particular scenario should play out differently when we know that the court is not just for the people, it's also for the politicians in this current dispensation and in previous as well?
Yes, and I think that's why the court, and that's why I think Nigerians should look at it from a broader perspective. Wike has a very difficult job. To be honest, I live in Abuja partially, and I can assure you that he's been one of the best FCT ministers we have as far as infrastructure is concerned. And many of the clamoring people are having to want to impeach PK is not a matter that started now. If you ask many FCT residents who was your last FCT minister, they will not remember. And I can assure you the same plight and quarrel and crisis they're having, they've always had it. Don't forget that since Wike became FCT minister, some people mentioned it clearly. Murik was out there. Somebody called him satanic, i.e. Sheikh Gumi. We remember this. So there's a lot of politics, and I think the court should see it what it is. And who knows, maybe the court is seeing it for what it truly is. This is almost a means to force the president's. I'm not a fan of Wike. I'm just saying the fact as I see it. Do you get? Okay. So I'm not particularly carrying water for Wike. I'm a practicing lawyer to the core. I'm not a politician. But then again, I'm not going to blind my eyes from obvious facts. Wike has been marked for crisis, for being a Christian.
Okay, there is a political stance, slant. There is no question about that. But what role does the Minister of Labour and Employment play in this dispute? It looks to me like the Labour Minister sees the situation as a battle between the FCT Minister and Labour, and so he's staying clear. But would that be the most logical part to tread in this time, considering that the FCT is the federal capital territory of this country and we cannot afford any breakdown of law and order?
Absolutely. I think we're almost saying the same thing. This is a political crisis. They should leave the courts out of this. This matter can be handled by politicians, because A to Z is a political crisis, not even a legal question. And I think the Minister of Labour has to come in. I think the President has to come in. Wike has to be also told that you have to temper down, you have to deal well, and this has to be solved politically. They are distracting the residents of this city.
But I may not have a grasp of all the issues that the FCT workers are talking about, but we understand that part of the 2 months of the 5 months arrears of wages have been paid, remaining 3 months, and they are saying that they will pay with February, March, and April salary. This was confirmed by the Senior Special Assistant to Nyesom Wike. Your thoughts on the matter? If efforts are being made to resolve the matter, is going to court, is taking this matter out of court maybe a better alternative? And I will still insist that you speak to the position of the Minister of Labour in this matter.
Yes, the Minister of Labour, he has to come in here. It's his party, and he cannot play the ostrich on this. You have to be out there. You have to deal with this, because this is your fellow. Even though we don't know which political affiliation Wike holds now, but then this is the APC government, and you're a minister in the same assembly and the same cabinet. So he has to be out there solving this issue clearly, without mincing words there. But to say that Wike is trying to pay up the salary, yes. but it's more than salary. People are talking about welfare generally. You know, it's also that Wike is doing some very important things. There have been bogus payments. There have been, you know, inefficiencies around the FCT and FCTA for aeons, and everybody knows this. So it's not as if all he's doing is wrong. So there have to be a delicate divide. You know, there have to be political way. He has to do the right things he's doing, and at the end of the day, he shouldn't prioritize, because some people are saying you are just prioritizing infrastructure, forgetting the real infrastructure, which is the lives of the average resident in the FCT, and that's also a valid point. But that being aside, I think the ministers have to come in here. It has to be politically solved.
All right.
Take the court out of this. This is not even a legal issue at all. This is simply politicians looking for ways to fight their battle. They have marked Wike, and in short, before he became FC minister, he has been marked for crisis.
Well, let's see what happens tomorrow. The court has ruled NLC and TUC also have the right to go ahead if that's how they choose. Thank you very much, Osigwe, for speaking with us.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you.